Good afternoon, everyone. I think we have a column as is our tradition at ICLD. We always want to start on time so that you can be able to manage our time better. We have a number of minutes between here and the time we finish. And I want to welcome all of you from wherever you are, be in Africa or in Europe or any other part of the world. Please welcome. As you know, ICLD organizes a number of forums that usually to create a lot of networking and also to share knowledge and capacity. I would like first to give Clara I'm going to say a word. I've seen also the Secretary General is present, so we'll also be happy if you say welcome and a word. Clara, over to you, and perhaps also from a word from Secretary General.
Thank you. With that, Johan, I will start. Go ahead, and then please come after me if you'd like. So good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to our distinguished panel. Welcome, mayors. And welcome, everyone, to ICLD's Alumni Talk, Youth Inclusion in Local Governance. My name is Clara Ostadius. I'm the Alumni Manager here at ICLD, and it is a great pleasure to host you today from near and far. You're joining us today on a special webinar focused on youth inclusion. This is a timely topic. We have many activities related to youth inclusion this fall, and that is simply because we see so much positive things happening in the communities in our programs. So we are looking for occasions to highlight what is happening and to offer occasions to meet and greet and exchange experiences for this. At ICLD, our mission is to strengthen democratic participation and create change at the local level. We work to support local governments, practitioners, and civil society in analyzing, prioritizing, and implementing the Sustainable Development Goals through 4 core values. These are equity, participation, transparency, and accountability. So you will see these reoccurring throughout the talks and throughout the questions that we pose always. And one of the unique strengths that ICLD has is our alumni network, with the people who have taken part in our programs, that is you, and who continue to be agents of change in your respective communities and to drive transformation forwards. It is a privilege to see firsthand for us how knowledge, ideas, and innovations travel across borders, how they get adapted locally, and how they actually generate a lot of impact. And youth inclusion is not just a moral imperative and is not just a rights-based issue, though it is definitely both. But it is also a practical and a positive force for democratic resilience, for innovation, and for sustainable development. We see that when young people are meaningfully included as partners in decision-making, we see policies and initiatives that are more responsive to needs on the ground and that are more creative and equitable and sustainable as well. So today's webinar is part of our Alumni Talk series, where we bring together alumni with other leaders, with youth representatives, and with other experts to share what is working, what challenges may be, and how we can move forward together towards more inclusive local governance. We invite all of you, whether you are municipal officials, whether you are civil society actors, youth leaders, scholars, to engage actively in the discussion. After we hear our wonderful panel, please do ask questions. You can type in the chat, you can raise your hand at the end of it. Be curious. With that said, I would ask you to keep your microphone turned off if you are not speaking, but please do keep your camera on if you have the sufficient internet for it, and we can see each other a little bit as well. Without further ado, then, thank you very much for joining today. I will keep letting people in as we go. Johan, are you here? Would you like to say a couple of words also?
Maybe so. I was not planned, as you know, but I'm very excited to be part of this, and I always are so interested to listen to the impact that you do in the field. So I look forward to listen and to be part of this. So I also say from ICLD then you're very much welcome to this seminar. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Clara and Yuan. I'll share something very briefly. I hope you can See this? This is a page, just 3-4 slides. You can see it. Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Clara, and also Secretary General of the UN for your kind words, and also Clara for sharing much more about the program today. For those who are new to ICLD, I just want to show you some probably three or four, so that you understand a little about why we organize these ones. Alumni Talks usually are organized to facilitate continuous and well-structured learning sessions like the one we're having today, where we are going to talk about youth inclusion in local governance, and also learn from those who are already working in those particular areas. Again, also we want to share knowledge and exchange practical experiences from the actors, like the mayors who are here from Zambia, from South Africa, and also other actors who have been participating globally in areas of youth participation. And finally, foster constructive dialogue, like the one we're having today, and learn from each other, the peer-to-peer learning. That is something we hope that for those who are attending today's session, you learn something from the peers, and you can be able to go back and actively implement what you're learning. We call it from inspiration to action. At ICLD, we have 3 levels of change. The first one is the individual, who we are today, yourselves. And we hope that whatever we do today and whatever we learn, you'll also be able to apply in your institutions, in your own institutions. You learn from the 2 or the 3 presenters, or 4, sorry, how you can be able to institutionalize the issue, for example, of youth inclusion in your institutions. And that we believe that is going to create results in our societies, impact in our societies. And we looked at these 3 areas that we'll be able to learn from today. You can be able to implement as we move along. That is ICLD theory of change. And finally, as I mentioned on what Clara said, we want to turn this learning into action. We want to have these insights from our colleagues, our panelists, to be implemented. We want those ideas that are achievable, and we want to, to turn this knowledge into something that you can be able to understand. We're going to inspire the youth, design inclusive policies, and also drive lasting change. Krala has already mentioned about this, that we hope that you can mute your microphone. Video is optional if you want to keep it. When it comes to questions, although we repeat this again, make it brief comments so that we allow others to participate. And also use chat to say something, ask questions, and raise your hands. And for those probably that have not had a chance to read this, these are our panelists today. We have Lucky Sele. Lucky Sele is the executive mayor of Mogale City in South Africa. I'll give him a little bit above what is just about to start. We also have Mayor Kanungwe Chota, who is from Zambia, and also acting as the vice president of Local Government Association of Zambia. We have our deputy governor, His Excellency Stephen Munania from Murang'a in Kenya, a very youthful deputy governor. I will give you a little more about him later. And finally, we have Annika, who is the Deputy Secretary of Christian Democratic International Center, or KIC, in Sweden. Those are our participants today. And without further that, I would like Lucky Sele, if you're ready, I want to log out, and so that you can be able to enter. Lucky Sele, we'd like you to start. If you're ready, please upload your presentation or your form of presentation as I introduce you to the group. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce our first speaker, who is His Worship, Councillor Lucky Godfrey Sele, who is the Executive Mayor of Mogale City, local municipality in South Africa, and is bringing extensive experience in provincial and local government, youth development, and also South Africa Local Government Association leadership. A former student activist trained in governance and management at Northwest University and West Business School, Mayor Sele has been a strong advocate for youth participation in various forms, including through one of the ICLD municipal partnership programs between Mogale City and Falun Municipality in Sweden, which advance youth engagement in local governance and human rights, creating sustainable structures to ensure youth influence become a permanent part of Mogale City structure and culture. Over to you, Mayor Lucky.
Thank you so much, John. And let me take this opportunity to greet everybody on the platform, the Secretary General of ICLD, and all other officials from ICLD present on the platform today, fellow panelists and mayors across the African continent, and fellow youth practitioners who have joined the platform today. I'm not sure, John, that I've indicated that there were prior commitments to this session, and therefore not sure if I would be able to share my screen. Let me try. Share my screen in terms of the discussion. And I hope the screen reflects a part of the presentation today, which will mainly be based on the partnership program that we were able to undertake as the city in partnership with the following municipality in Sweden. And this partnership was made possible by ICLD for us to be able to participate, for us to be able to look at how to advance youth participation in local democracy. And it's also part of what we will be talking about when we visit Lusaka in terms of sharing notes, in terms of youth participation in local democracy. But I want to, as a point of departure, deal with the state of local government in South Africa that reflects both progress and deep-seated challenges. On one hand, municipalities, which is the space that I'm in, have been positioned as the sphere closest to the people, with the mandate to drive service delivery, promote local development, and ensure participatory democracy, in particular for young people. And on the other hand, there's widespread governance failures, fiscal distress, political instability, and administrative weaknesses that have eroded public trust in this crucial sphere of government. Many communities experience persistent service delivery protests, infrastructure decay, and limited responsiveness from councils, highlighting the urgent need to revitalize the system of developmental local government and participatory democracy. This sphere of government is the one closest to communities. It is tasked with service delivery, participatory democracy, and local development. And despite this mandate, there's been many challenges, particularly relating to fiscal instability and declining public trust. And I want to say, despite mentioning of this challenge, these sessions today give us an opportunity to reflect on the central role of youth in shaping future governance. These challenges present an opportunity for young people to rise up in governance and ensure that we build up structures that will be able to deliver to our communities and the people on the ground. So we need a lot of young people to participate and be embedded in decision-making processes that will strengthen accountability, responsiveness, and innovation in local government. Young people must not only be treated as receivers of development, they must also be at the center of this particular development. So this system of youth panels and councils that we conceptualize with the seat of Fallen becomes one of the structures where young people are given a platform to participate, to express themselves, and moreover to be trained to take over for the future of their cities. And if you look at what we have done as the city in terms of the establishment, is what we will share today, that this system, we believe that is one of the systems that put young people on the pedestal to participate in shaping the future of our governance. I will take you through how we established it and how the structure operates and functions, and the challenges that exist in the space that we are in. So it was established in 2023 when we met with Fallen in 2022 at Lund in Sweden and decided that to advance participatory youth participation in local democracy, we would then have to establish youth councils. And a number of children were then at school going age were then selected from 32 schools across the city between the following grades, 8, 9, 10, and 11. And they went through the process to be selected into leadership positions, and they were elected by their own peers. So we have at the moment in our city the junior mayor, the junior speaker, and the junior council. And amongst them, they have members of the mayoral committee who assist the mayor in various responsibilities to execute. For this particular leadership structure, is a platform for the youth who are between the school-going age to meet with their own leadership, who are given different responsibilities, and to present themselves their views and how they feel about democracy. But most importantly, to deal with the eroding public trust, because this trust, we must inspire it on young people so that they believe in democracy, they participate in democratic processes, they respect the human rights, and uphold the constitution of our country. And this is something that they will grow up with in terms of their participation when they become adults. And their responsibilities includes planning and executing their own events. And they represent student bodies in their own schools who also have engagement with school administration and parent bodies. They have their own campaigns and initiatives, and they also have their own youth advocacy programs, which will ensure as the city that it is very easy for them to execute their responsibility, what is required of them. And this is a form of mentorship and training to ensure that the youth get the space to exist and they get their own space to come up with their programs, including responding to environmental challenges that the world is faced with today, as well as having programs aligned to the sustainable developmental goals. They meet quarterly in council, like the normal council that we have. They preside over their own meetings, and they also lead their own constituency. And our responsibility is just to oversee the work that they do and to support them as the leadership of the city. And thus far, once we had formulated the junior student council, they were able to achieve the first runner-up position in the debate of all junior students councils that are in our province of Gauteng. Has always participated in Y20 discussions, as you know that South Africa is hosting the G20 countries in November 2025. They have conducted campaigns against drugs and gender-based violence, the distribution of dignity packs, and have ensured that we have trained and inducted them to become leaders that we need in our society who are going to contribute in future. And of course, this success does not go without challenges. There are various challenges to be able to put youth together you need sufficient resources to be able to do so, but also ensure that you do not interfere with teaching and learning, because they must still go to school as much as we want them to participate into these particular programs. They want clothes that look in uniform, which we are yet to achieve as the city, but we are still working on it. But I want to get into having presented what we have as a city, quickly get into the issues that border the youth in general and in terms of participation in a democracy, and why we must advance for the inclusion of the youth in terms of participatory democracy. Too often, youth are consulted as decoration and not as decision makers. And today, these young people are already activating spaces, who are already turning things around, such as empty buildings, who are already making places that are unsafe, safe in terms of their innovation and taking up those particular spaces. But most young people are excluded in terms of democracy. So we need to advocate for the youth to be at the center of economic engines and share in the dividends, jobs, land, access to housing, and entrepreneurship opportunities. So without the youth, no economy of any nation or of any country can survive without young people being included. And I hope in our engagements leading up to our meeting in Lusaka, at the center of it would be paving common resolutions and collaborations on how we can put youth at the center of decision making and involvement to ensure that they are not tenants of yesterday's choices, but they are architects of tomorrow's future. So that's where I would want to stop for today as an appetizer leading up to our big meeting, and looking forward to have constructive engagement on how young people can be put at the center. Most of our countries are dominated by young people, but who are delusional, who are not participating, who are apolitical, who are losing confidence in democracy, who have eroding public trust on democratic processes. It is our responsibility to ensure that we bring this youth to the fold and guide them and share the knowledge that we have about democracy, the impact that democracy can do, the success of democracy across the globe, on how it has turned around the lives of many people and how it has improved even access to healthcare, education, and many other things that are important to the livelihood of human beings. And I want to end by saying we have a struggle icon in South Africa who led the struggle against apartheid for over 30 years until Nelson Mandela was released from prison. And his name is Oliver Tambo, who passed away in 1993. And he said that any nation that does not take care of its youth does not deserve its future. The close quote. And I'm hoping that we, because we care about the future, will make an investment on the future and young people to be able to take up our countries, our continent, and the global world forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lucky, for that insightful and very replicable case study of your case. As you mentioned, it was done within the partnership between yourselves and the Falun municipality from Sweden. And I'm sure most of the participants who are learning this will be able to access this online If you go to ICLD website, you get a little more of the information. And thank you so much. That was very inspiring, a very good information, very good case that can be replicated, not just in South Africa, but also other parts of the world as well. And we look forward to learning also from you in Lusaka in the next month coming. Thank you so much. Allow me to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is a very inspiring case of Her Worship Councillor Kanungwe Chota Kanyanyamina, the mayor of Kanchibiya Town Council in Zambia. Elected in 2021 as the youngest female mayor of Zambia at only 27 years. That was pretty a good feat. She's an alumni of an ICLD Women in Political Leadership program. She's called WIP. And she also serves as the vice president of the Local Government Association of Zambia, and also the chairperson of African Women Climate Action Network. An Amuje Fellow and the recipient of 2025 Local Government Award for Women in Leadership. She is known to champion inclusive governance, youth participation, and women empowerment. Welcome, Mayor, Mayor Chota. Karibu.
Thank you so much, John. Firstly, I'm very honored. I should thank ICLD. Last year, I began my journey as a women in political leadership in cohort 10. And I think if ICLD remembers my journey very well, when I entered as a child in leadership. And I think it suffices to mention that by the time that I was graduating and getting my certificate, I was a credible leader. And this is because of the skills that ICLD... Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but somebody has interrupted. I think we'll identify if it is. Continue, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. It suffices to mention that ICLD built a credible leader, a visionary leader, a leader that now sees the need to build trust between the community and my office. I say that because at the beginning of my journey, just like you earlier said, I am the youngest female mayor in Zambia, still very much a youth. And out of 116 mayors in Zambia, we only have 6 that are youths that are elected. So the numbers are very terrible. And I'm also running a rural district, which means at the point of my election, not just some of the members of the community, my council staff themselves had a lot of, they had the feeling she would not work because she doesn't come in with so much experience. She's young. And I remember at the beginning, I'm like, okay, so how am I going to deal with this? And at some point, I think I remember even using force where I held a meeting and I told them, yes, I understand I'm young and I understand I'm a woman, but what we will not do is disrespect my office. You respect this office because people voted for it. And I had challenges in bridging the gap. But I should actually mention, even before I begin my presentation, that through ICLD, there's been so much that we've been able to do together. And today I can ascertain my leadership journey has been birthed because of the support that I've continuously gotten from ICLD, even after the cohort ended. So very, very grateful to be even given this opportunity to share our journey, because it's very important that others could also pick 1 or 2 things from us. We started not as experts in leadership, but here we are continuously learning from others. I should thank you, Mayor Sele, of the things and great things they're doing in South Africa that he mentioned, where they are holding hands of young people and they have a junior council. Very good works that they are doing. Coming back to me, I recognize the presence of Johan, our Secretary General. Clara, thank you so much, and to everybody that is listening. My names have already been mentioned, pronounced very well by John. I guess that men from the East can pronounce my name because a lot of people find it very hard to say Kanyanyamina. As I speak, I'm not just speaking as a mayor, but I'm speaking as a youth, as somebody who's very who's an advocate of the youths and who believes in youth leadership. I always say in my country, Zambia, I'll use Zambia as an example, and I'll speak often from my point of view. We've got 2 systems of governance. That is the local governance, and we've got another tier that is central government. So the 2, we work together. And obviously, I always say local government is the closest government that is where we meet with people. It is government for the people. And when I got elected, a lot of people had a different notion about what local government is or what local governance even does. And it was hence through my office that we began doing different community engagement meetings. At the beginning, when we did these engagement meetings, I remember even this was also my project under the ICLD program that I did. We did community engagement, and we were not just doing community engagement for the sake of doing community engagement. We did community engagement to let people know what services, how they can hold us accountable, give people a voice. And then we not just went without structure. So what we did, we developed what we call the Bilo, where we give an opportunity for every segment of people. This was derived that after we had noted to say, in Kanchibiya, the majority of the people that live in Kanchibiya, we have 70% of the people living in Kanchibiya who are youths. We've got more than 55% who are women. Yet every time we hold these meetings, the majority become the minority when we're discussing issues, and every time issues needed to be brought forward. Hence, we decided to introduce what we call the bylaw, and right now we are trying to pass it into a bylaw by the help of everyone, including ICLD, that I'll come and speak about it later in my closing remarks. But what this bylaw means is that every time we hold a community engagement, we give a segment to every group of people. So the youth have a segment where they present their issues. The women have a segment where they present their issues. The men, the aged, even the young people, we have a segment for that. So when we hold the town hall meetings, we go in the community and do face-to-face with the community, we always prioritize that. This is because we know very well that youths are not only the majority, they are also the future of our district. And we also know that when you look at the continent, Africa itself, over 60% of the people living in Africa are below the age of 25. In Zambia, we've got, our youth starts from 18 to 35. So we've got a majority of Zambians right now who are youths, which means that when the moment you turn 18, you are able to vote. And then if you are saying the majority of people living in Zambia are from the age of 18 to 35, it simply means that the majority voters in our country are the youth. So if these are the people that are voting more, they should also be able to be the ones that are driving the development in our communities. Unfortunately, we've had a number of challenges. However, we understand that maybe other youths may want to start at a higher level, but for youths that are listening, I always say that a local government is the closest to the citizens. And if you want to make the real impact can be felt at local governance level, because I am working and we know the things that we've been able to do that we are going to shortly share with you, so that then we move together. We'll just cite a bit of some of the innovations that we've been able to do. And I always encourage that youth must be part of the voice that is driving development in our council, because we risk making decisions for them that may be considered irrelevant or outdated. What I may consider to be perfect, other youths may say that is not even what we want. And hence, for us, we prioritize voices. And I should also put it on record that Kanchibiya has 80% youth councillors. The actual councillors who've been voted, the council is 80% youth. So which simply entails that even when they're in the community, their friends easily interact with them, the councillors away from the council meetings. And even now, when you see the WDCs, because I always say people don't do what is not seen. People want to see something and then they do it. So because young people in our community have seen that a lot of young people ran for office and a lot of them were voted for. Of course, this was as a result when our electoral commission in Zambia put a grade 12 certificate as a prerequisite. And hence we saw a lot of young people coming on board because they had the prerequisite, and a lot of older people not qualifying, and hence a lot of people were voted for in power. But what this has also done is it has empowered the other young people who did not believe in themselves. And now we have a lot of ward development committees, which is the lowest organ of governance in local government. We have a lot of them in Kanchibiya. More than 90% of our ward development committees are actually youths. However, even as we are saying we are making these we're making these strides, we also continuously face a number of challenges. I'll speak for Zambia as a scenario. We have political parties because that is where we are adopted. So I already gave data to say we only have 6 mayors in Zambia that are youths. And then the problem for me, it starts with the adoptions. Youths are rarely adopted. And when they're adopted, sometimes they're adopted in areas where it's almost impossible for them to run for office and actually win. And then not only that, in almost all the political parties, we have what we are calling youth wings. For me, I'm not a supporter of having youth wings in political parties because for me, I believe that it puts you in a corner where they tell you discuss things for the youth while they are now discussing serious issues and they remove you from the table that is making the actual decisions. So they basically just give it to you as a tokenistic to say, okay, we've given you a youth wing, you have your chairperson, but then it's actually not, there's no decision, there's no power there. It's just a front for political parties to continue doing what they are doing and for everyone to see like it's just sprinkles on a cake. We have youth leadership in the political party, but yet youths are not finding themselves adopted. They are not finding themselves in areas where they can actually stand. On top of that, even as much as a number of youths, including myself, because these things that I personally had challenges with, people would always tell you that, no, you are too young, so you are very immature, you are not experienced, you can't lead. So there's that cultural barrier to say a young person can't even talk to an older person or correct an older person, even when they are wrong, because they are young, you need to never talk more than the elders. So it's these cultural barriers that are also affecting the representation of youths in our country. We have a lot of unemployment. And obviously, if someone is unemployed, they've not saved much. Our campaigns are very difficult. So it's very difficult for somebody to stand for office without having any resources. And then also, when you look at the way the policies are designed, most policies are written about the youths. They are not written with the youths. And hence, when you look at our policies, you'll find that most of them are actually not even defending the youths. And I should actually put it on record that, of course, we are now trying to have, I don't know if it will work out or if it won't work out, but Zambia is trying to amend the constitution. And when you look at the constitution, of course, we're saying now we should bring quotas on board, but the very quotas have been studied in other nations and they have proven that they are not even as effective because most people who are given these opportunities are either maybe a young sister, a young brother to a high influential politician, a son to someone who's connected. But the actual credible vision carriers, the hardworking youths, are never given these opportunities. So for me, I feel these are some of the challenges that have led and some things that I personally experienced. But then when I come to some of our success stories, when I got in office, everybody was convinced I was not going to do it. Everyone was convinced I was going to fail because they looked at my age, like I earlier mentioned. Age is a big issue. It's like, oh, you're so young. What are you even going to do? And then making it all worse, you're even a woman. So I knew that if I was going to make any sense, because competing in an office where I'm sitting right now as mayor, first time holding this office by a woman, and then also first time being held by a youth. I've got my member of parliament who's male, my district commissioner who's male, and they're all older. They've got more experience, their finances are good. I knew that I needed to do something totally different. And these are some of the things that I had to unlearn throughout my way because I knew I could not compete with them on financial basis. But what I did, and rather what we are doing with my team in Kanchibiya, is we prioritize building trust between our office and the people. We always tell people our progress, what we are moving at. We tell people the truth. If we cannot do something, we move with the people. So there is constant communication between the council and the people. We've got news bulletins. We are doing a lot of community engagement. We recently built a radio station where now every day information is being disseminated. People can call in, even those that are living in far-fetched areas. This project has been under our leadership. A total number of 68 projects under our leadership have been lobbied for through different funding, and we've been able to implement and fully commission these projects. And because we don't only sit, and when I say we, I mean my office not only sits to wait for the council management to bring reports and then I check them through. We have entered an agreement that every 3 weeks we are on the ground inspecting and monitoring the works that are going on to see if they are tallying with the reports. And because of that, people have been able to see that we've been able to deliver quality and on-time projects that we are constantly commissioning in Kanchibiya. And I think I should also mention that just recently in 2022, we actually were we were the best implementing council in the Constituency Development Fund. That is something that we have been able to work hand in hand with the management. We have agreed we need to monitor these projects, and this is what we are doing. I already mentioned the below on how we are bringing the women, the men, and the youth and the age together to make sure that their voices are all institutionalized. We are pushing this as a bylaw so that even when I leave office, the next person who will come, they will prioritize hearing the voices of everybody in the district. We're also running some mentorship programs that we are doing in schools and churches as well. So these mentorship programs are not limited to only the girls, it's also the boy child, where we want to see them as future leaders. So from time to time, unlike our big brother in South Africa who has a junior council, for us, we just invite them to listen in when we have our actual council so that they understand and begin to pick interest, and others begin to see themselves as future councillors. Because I always say people don't see things that they don't do things that they don't see. So we want to make leadership familiar to them, and we want them to start building role models amongst the very young leaders that are leading them from their community. So we invite them to listen in when we have a budget, the schools that are closer, they listen in and they see what we are doing. And from time to time, whenever we hold these community engagement meetings, we always prioritize civic education, even not just for the youth, for the entire community to understand that local government and us are there to bring a service. When you see us, you must not see all the solutions to all your problems, because the solutions lies with all of us in the community. So it's detaching the political face of a politician always wanting to get the praise even while they did not so. So we have tried to make sure that civic education is done. And I should actually mention this on a lighter note, that this very civic education is now haunting us, because now every day people know their rights and they are demanding answers. And sometimes it's not always that we have them, but we have to face what we have ignited, which is good, because now people are beginning to know their rights. The youths are beginning to speak, and they're knowing that truly it's just not being used to vote. They want to be part of the development. You can see the zeal, they have the energy, and they are willing to do the work. Even when you call for meetings, previously we had very low attendance with the youth. But when they saw that things were beginning to happen, we're engaging them, they began rather to trust us, and we've seen the participation is growing. They are bringing different innovations at the council, trying to collaborate and see how we can work together. And of course, before I conclude, we've come up with a few solutions. And then some of these solutions, I think we've even shared with the Ministry of Sports and Youth. We had conversations with even the minister and even with our own ministry, mother ministry, that is local government, to say, I think even when we are doing these disbursements, of course, we've got grants, we've got loans under our Constituency Development Fund, which are empowering the youths. But there's no percentage. And these are things that I personally have spoken even in a room where the president was, to say, look, you can't just say, you put a fund and you say women and youth empowerment, because then you do not know who's getting this money, because you've put women, youth, and community. We need to deal with data. Can we make sure that we know the initiatives and the percentage that is going to the youth-led initiatives? We know the percentage that is going to the women. That way it will be easy for us to track what our youths are doing, and others would then see what their friends are doing. I'm happy, again, I'll keep mentioning Mayor Sele because what he's doing is brilliant. And I always say, for us who are already in leadership, even for our elders who are already in leadership, it doesn't hurt to pick someone and mentor them. We pick a young leader. I'm mentoring a few people. I'm here because I've been mentored by ICLD. Now I'm being mentored by the Amuje. I believe in the power of mentorship because in the beginning of my political career, believe you me, I knew little or nothing about leadership. But because of just this confidence that I had, I said I wanted to make a difference in my community. That's what drove my leadership. And the fact that I wanted to make a change in my leadership, we need representation for our people. What the struggles we'll find our way, we'll go through them. I've had people that have constantly held my hand. I have been that lucky, but the fact that I know what holding my hand as okay, what I'm almost concluded. I know what holding my hand as been able to do with my leadership. I'm always advocating that it's empowering. Leaders must always lift other youths so that we can go together. For me, I'm a high advocate for youth inclusion, and I believe youths must just not be around a youth desk somewhere. They should be integrated into all sectors. We must see and start grooming youths who are going to advocate for agriculture. They'll speak about environment from an informed point of view. They'll speak about finance. They'll speak about infrastructure. We raise credible leaders, youths with a vision, and slowly people are going to begin to trust the leadership of youth, and they'll see that indeed these young people are able to also lead. And as I conclude, I want to put it on record that youth inclusion must never ever be seen as a favor. It's an investment, because the future of local governance depends on how much we're going to constantly empower our young people to co-create with us today, because the young people are the majority. Africa is young, and what we do with this young generation, its posterity is going to judge us harshly. I would like to end here, and thank you so much for the time.
Hey, thank you so much, Mayor Chota, for your inspiring story from Kanchibiya, and also giving us some of the challenges that you went through as a young lady, and also being young and also being a lady. That is quite a lot of information, and I'm sure a lot of people have learned from you, including some of the colleagues who are shutting aside, that your story is pretty inspiring. The challenges you had are not only from Kanchibiya or Zambia, they cut across Africa. And we are glad also that you mentioned ICLD training, Women in Political Leadership, also gave you some milestones in becoming the leader you are today. Congratulations for that. I'm sure for anybody who would want to ask me a short question, please put it on the chat, or you're going to put the data in the towards the end. And we are now joined with a fairly good story, also from Kenya. We also have one of the youngest deputy governors in Kenya, His Excellency Stephen Munania. He's the deputy governor of Murang'a and the youngest to hold that position in Kenya at only 29. He holds a master's degree in science diplomacy and international relations, and previously served in the office of the president as an assistant county commissioner. With over 7 years of experience in community-based disaster management and leadership roles, including as a student leader in a local university in Kenya called Masinde Mulilo University, His Excellency Deputy Governor Stephen Munania brings a wealth of experience in public service, diplomacy, and community development, and is driven by a strong commitment to youth empowerment and disaster management. In fact, he represents one of the best performing counties in Kenya today, and they have quite a lot of information that you learn from. And I'm sure His Excellency, the Deputy Governor of Murang'a, will share some inspiring stories, how he became the Deputy Governor at only 29, and why Murang'a is so well known as one of the best counties in Kenya with youth matters. Your Excellency, sir, it's your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gitonga. Thank you very much, Clara, for having us on this platform. As it has been mentioned, my name is Stephen Munania, one of the youngest elected deputy governors in the Republic of Kenya. I must confess that the words from Mayor Chota are very inspiring, because I was drawing parallels between my journey within the political and leadership spheres with what she has done. And I am actually very inspired by what she has been doing in her very short time in leadership, and also as a young leader. And I really commend the work that she is doing for her people in her municipality. To put into context maybe a little bit, Murang'a is a county, as one of the devolved units in the country of Kenya, in the Republic of Kenya. With me, we have 7 municipalities and 3 municipalities under my jurisdiction. I have 7 constituencies under my jurisdiction, 35 wards that also have ward representatives who are politicians and who go to the county assembly. Also under me, we have a state senator. Also under me, we have 7 members of the National Assembly. So it's quite a large responsibility, being the youngest deputy governor in the Republic. I must say that my journey reflects that of Mayor Chota and how she has been through. First of all, getting into local administration from the office of the president as an assistant county commissioner at the age of only 26, where I was serving as a lead in terms of national government implementation, on development, on national security, on matters including youth programs and the rest within one of the districts, which was Murang'a South, and later went on to vie for a political seat, which landed me to the seat of the deputy governor for the county government of Murang'a. For me, I want to share a little bit of experience. I know that we have not had interaction with ICDL, but Murang'a municipality has had quite a lengthy relationship with ICDL. However, I want to bring into context a few things about young leadership, and I hope that other young leaders can be able to learn. When I entered into leadership, some of the people who are elders in the county came to us, and they had a story that they said, young leaders are not elected in terms of when the country is stable and when there is prosperity. Young leaders are elected when there is agitation, when the country is in problems, and when there is turmoil, because they have the energy to move forward and do not have the, let me call it, the burden of experience. Because the burden of experience here, I mean about the issues that have been going wrong within governance and within leadership, that most of the times lead to issues that the young people feel are not representative of them. And as you look at the African context and also look at the world at large, you see a very huge youth movement, which you are calling the Gen Z movement, coming very strongly, advocating for democratic processes, advocating for inclusion, advocating for good governance, advocating for eradication of corruption, and other things. Kenya is not an exemption to that, because I believe last year and this year we had various youth movements that came out specifically requesting for that. And my view has always been that, aside from the conversations that we have in boardrooms, aside from the conversation we go through trainings, aside from the conversations we get to meet with our partners, we need to be able to bring all these things into contextualizing about what actually can be felt by the young person in the municipality, in the local communities, and as well as across the nations and across the world. If we are having conversations and these conversations are not leading to tangible things that can be seen and that can be felt, then our conversations end only in presentation and talk. So we need to go beyond that and have actual things that that are affecting us. My conversation, I'm going to guide my conversation on 3 key elements. I don't want to touch on what Mayor Chota has discussed in terms of the challenges that the young people and especially the young elected leaders face as they go into leadership, because what she has gone through is virtually what I went through. Because every room that we would enter into, whether it's with cabinet secretaries, whether it's with ministers, people from the national government, international forums, I would find myself, I'm the youngest person there with the least amount of experience than anybody else there. And so when you find yourself in that room, you have no option but to be innovative, and you have no option. So I don't want to go much into that. I want to go to actual issues that I want to touch on that can affect and can change the phase into which how we view young leadership, and especially on the programs that we choose as young leaders to engage on. And also, one, as we look at the connection between young leaders and democracy, one of the key connections that we get with young people with democracy and leadership is what they can be able to take home. One of the issues that they want to take home is the ability to access education. The other is the ability to access opportunities. And the other one is the ability to be able to create jobs and get jobs within the market and within our local administrations. If we have those three key areas that are coupled with equal development agendas or equal resource distribution within our municipalities and within our leadership circles, then we can move in a way that can help us be able to get to the young people who are actually agitating for change and who are actually requesting for good governance and good leadership within the areas of jurisdiction. And so my experience has been, when I got into office, one of my major issues was, can we have a youth policy that can guide this and that can contextualize this in terms of development and within those two areas? And so we went on a public participation. We went through the legislative arm of the county. We went through the community collecting views, and we created a Murang'a youth policy that was engaging us on three key aspects. One of them was youth-led policy, youth-led programs. One of them which came out of that Murang'a youth policy was what we call Murang'a Youth Service. And Murang'a Youth Service is a specialized program that is geared on on three areas, which is one, providing job opportunities on community service level. Level two, which is actual training and providing skills to the young people. And level three, which is funding of, or what we call providing seed capital to the young people who have gone through the program, so that not only are they going to go start their own business, but they can also be able to use the skills that they have to enter into the job market, either by themselves or create more opportunity to more young people. And so far in the last 2 years of 2 years of that program in Murang'a, I already have close to 8,000 households that are participating in the program, so that they can have that impact at that level. The second element was in terms of trying to provide education that is sustainable, or rather equal education opportunity to the young people. Because not only now are we looking at skilling, but also we have to look at higher education. We have to also look at basic education. We also have to look at the elements towards the affordability of that. Whereas at my local level, I'm not responsible for the policy direction of higher education, but I have a part to play as a young person in providing resources to the people so that they can be able to access that education. And so the Murang'a Youth Policy was based on, it also created a regulation which we call the Murang'a Inua Masomo, which is actually uplifting education for the young people in that direction, which provides now funding for the young people who goes to university, and especially who comes from the very needy backgrounds, who cannot afford any other form of other education, and who especially comes from the public secondary schools or public secondary schools. These are people who largely the population of Murang'a relies to in terms of education. The third component of that policy was on creating future opportunities. And creating future opportunities here lies in terms of investment, in terms of education, in terms of investment, in terms of development, job creation, in terms of, so that we can have sustainable development within the county. One component that, in my view, the mistake that as leaders we make is that when we think, sometimes when we think about youth inclusion and youth leadership, we come to the conclusion that we have to have this very specific policy that has to be directed to the people between the age of 18 and 35, which largely becomes a problem because you cannot distinguish a farmer who is the age of 25 and a farmer who is the age of 37, and you cannot distinguish between providing healthcare between a person who is the age of 23 and a person who is the age of 58. And so what we need to do in terms of policy framework is be able to institutionalize a policy whereby the resources that go into the community are not concentrated in one location. If we can have policy directions that go to the household level, that's where you get the young people, that's where you get those households. And then as a household, you improve the agricultural level at the household level, then you improve the lives of the young people in that household. You improve the primary health care at the household level, then you improve the health of the community, the health of the young people at that level. If you create job opportunities in terms of resources that get to the people at the household level, then it also means that the young people who are participating in nation building, who are participating in development, can be able to participate in a manner that is inclusive of the entire community, because the young people are not in isolation of the community, they are not in isolation of the society. And so we have to be able to be candid enough to realize that these policies have to be inclusive of everybody, but then they have to go to the local level where they touch about the young people and youth in terms of resource distribution. And so at that level, through our leadership and through the leadership of my governor, we came up with a way into which we divide the county resources. The ones that we either provide in terms of, we provide services for at the county level, and the ones that are guided from the national level, so that those resources are equally distributed on every aspect. If it's healthcare, you have a healthcare programs that runs from all the way from the county level to the household level. If you have an agricultural program, it's an agricultural program. For example, what we have a subsidy program and a commercialization program for our farmers. It runs all the way to the household level, and not in a place where it hangs at a jurisdiction where you cannot tell who is actually benefiting from these programs. And so whether it's all programs in terms of education, they are household based, so that now everything is distributed. And so in terms of moving forward along this policy, we guided the perspective that we have to create, then we have to create the vision for Murang'a, which is 2050, a vision 2050 for Murang'a, so that now we can guide this vision, not only in my 5 years in terms of leadership, but for the next 30, 40 years, so that the people who participate in any of this program can be able to see their progress in terms of development. The community can be able, and whoever comes after me as a leader can be able to see this blueprint that we have created for the county and for the young people, and so that the future generation of the young people, because they only have maybe 4 or 5 years to be a young person in leadership, and I will be post the people who are qualified as young people under the law. And so we have to be able to create the opportunities that the future generation of young leaders can be able to see where they head from this, from there. And so lastly, so we came up with a program of Vision 2050 to move now the county now from primary production, into which we participate in agriculture. We move it to in a more value addition level, into which is a secondary market in terms of manufacturing, in terms of access to markets, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of agro-processing, and the rest, through all those value chains. And so with that, we created these special economic zones and export processing zones, whereby now any person who is an investor can be able to be given now incentives to come to the county, so that they can put their resources into the lives of the same households that you're talking about. Because after training, after educating our young people, then these young people, if they don't, what we are seeing across large numbers and either demonstrating against the government. So it's our opportunities to be able to create these opportunities. And so through that, I hope that in the next 50 years of Murang'a County, we can be able to enjoy this transformation from primary production now transiting to a secondary market, so that now the young people who are now coming up in these education key areas, in these training programs, from this education background can be able to get these job opportunities. Also, the people who are participating in primary production can be able to have an area where they can be able to take their products, and so we can also interact with the world from that perspective. As I conclude, I want to indicate, as I conclude, the perspective that young people need to come out, and I also think that's still the essence of a forum like this, is so that we can be able to share these opportunities, we can be able to share these experiences, and so that when through sharing these experiences, we can be able to enrich each other's programs and each other's perspective. And that's the only way I do believe that from a policy perspective, and I'm a strong believer that a democracy only works if it has tangible and concrete issues that are felt by the people at the local level. If the young people are not feeling capacity building in terms of the jobs after training, if they are not feeling about the opportunities being provided to them, then it doesn't matter what we tell them. As leaders, we have to be more progressive, and we have to move to the next stage as creating the ecosystem necessary so that we can move to the next level. And so my closing remarks are going to be based that as we interact in this forum, for me, I'm very keen in looking at the opportunities that I can be able to get in terms of partnership with other municipalities, other nations, so that as we are interacting, we can be able to share partners, we can be able to share development partners, we can be able to share experiences, we can be able to share in terms of resources where available. And so this can help us improve the lives of the young people, not only across in our own jurisdictions, but also across the world. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Your Excellency, Deputy Governor of Murang'a. I did mention actually earlier that Murang'a is one of the 47, we have 47 counties, and it's one of the counties. Secretary, thank you so much, Your Excellency, for giving us some of the insights about why Murang'a is doing so well. I have learned a number of things, including learning about your youth councils, which actually does a lot of policies and frameworks, which provide supporting mechanisms for supporting the youth in long time, which is very different from the youth wing Mayor Chota talked about from Kanchibiya. I'm sure participants are learning a lot, and there's a lot of lessons we can pick from Murang'a. If you have any questions for Deputy Mayor, please, Deputy Governor, please put it in the chat, and then you can be able to respond after we finish with the last speaker. Thank you so much, Deputy Governor. Around me, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce our last speaker of the day, Madam Annika, who is the Deputy Secretary General of the Christian Democratic International Center, also referred to as KIC from Sweden. She plays a key role in advancing KIC's mission of promoting democracy, human rights, and sustainable development through international partnerships and capacity building initiatives. And she's not new to Africa. I know she has a number of programs in different countries in Africa. Probably should mention them as we progress. Annika has extensive experience in promoting youth political participation, particularly coordinating the program for young politicians in Africa, PYPA. And some of you here are actually members or recipients or alumni of that particular program. Her work focuses on empowering young leaders, strengthening democratic values, and fostering inclusive political engagement across regions. Please welcome Madam Annika.
Thank you, John, for the introduction, and thank you, Clara, for inviting me and to this very esteemed panel. Good afternoon to my fellow panelists, and good afternoon to our participants. I was happy to hear that we have some PIPA alumni. We call it PIPA, Program for Young Politicians in Africa. So I'm going to share a presentation with you. So KIC, or the Christian Democratic International Center, we currently run 4 programs in East Africa. And when I say East Africa, I talk about Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya. And all 4 programs have components of youth inclusion, but the flagship program is the Piper program. So much of my experience that I will talk about now today will be based on the experiences made through Piper. So I will start with some challenges that they're not new to you, I know, and Mayor Chota, she mentioned some of these challenges. But and also Clara said in the beginning that we're seeing progress, and I would like to also to agree with that. We also see some improvements, and also the challenges that I will be mentioning will not apply to all parties in all countries. The Piper program runs in 16 countries throughout sub-Saharan Africa, but these challenges are common enough to mention them here. So firstly, we have the institutional barriers. Youth often have limited formal roles and influence within party structures. They rarely hold seats in central decision-making bodies. There are also lack of formal youth policies and quotas, which means that there are no clear rules to guarantee representation or promotion of young people within the political parties. We also see a lot of social cultural barriers. There are prevailing attitudes within the parties, like Mayor Chota mentioned, that young people are often seen as inexperienced or not ready for leadership. There are also hierarchical political cultures that make it difficult for youth to challenge entrenched senior leaders. And we all know that politics are highly monetarized. So there are also challenges in terms of resource and capacity barriers. There's a lack of, or youth often lack financial resources to participate fully in campaigns, for instance, but also in congresses or other party activities. There's also limited access to mentors, political education, and training that leaves many youth without the necessary skills and networks to advance. And here I think an actor like KIC or ICLD can play a very important role. We also see party infrastructure barriers. Many parties lack functional youth wings, and there are also weak or absent structures for internal progression. So based on our experiences, these are some of the lessons that we've learned. So there's a need for capacity building with the political edge to train young politicians, not just in leadership, but in policy development, strategy development, or strategic planning, and public speaking, among many other topics. And also to equip them with to influence within their parties, not just youth wings. We are also able to, because the Piper program is a regional program that includes several countries, so we are also able to connect our participants with youth from several countries across Africa. This creates solidarity, exchange of strategies, and resilience in difficult political environments. And also alumni become resources for each other long after they graduate from our programs. And this is also important with to have partnership with mainstream parties. When I mean mainstream parties, I mean the mother party. We call them mother parties, the main part of the party. So we work with established parties to secure space for youth in decision making, and that can take different forms. In Zambia, for instance, we work with intergenerational dialogues. It can also be strategy and manifesto development processes that includes both the mainstream party or the mother party and the youth wings. Also, we focus on values and democratic culture. So beyond skills, we instill commitment to democracy, accountability, gender equality, and non-violence. That helps to build leaders that are responsible. So some of the key takeaways for meaningful youth participation. So in part of our theory of change, we work a lot about around knowledge, will, and opportunity. So it's important that the knowledge is relevant to the youth reality and context. It has to be useful for them. Will relates to empowerment and self-confidence. And opportunity is the one that we have most difficulty with, because we cannot provide opportunities within the political parties or the political system as such. That's why it's so important also to have a good working relationship with the political parties. So sustainability, I think this session also shows that it's important with long-term support networks and mentoring rather than one-off events. So that's why we also have alumni networks and alumni activities. I also want to stress that we provide links to formal politics. I think civil society activism is very, very important, but unless young people are integrated into political parties and political decision-making, their voices risk being sidelined. Having said that, I think it's very important that the connection or the nexus between political youth and youth from the civil society should be strengthened even more to facilitate or to promote meaningful youth inclusion into politics. And my last point is representation. And when I talk about representation here, I don't mean representation in parliaments and such, but in programming. So the representation or our participants must come from a diverse background across gender, region, and socioeconomic backgrounds. However, all our programs depend on the political parties endorsing the participants, which means that we do not have full control over who participates. However, we implement this very strong gender quota, which the political parties adhere to. So that was all from my presentation. I'm looking forward to any questions.
Thank you so much, Annika, for that short but precise presentation. I was actually reading about paper this morning, and I learned a lot of what you do in Africa, including my own country here in Kenya. Thank you so much for that insightful and the impact you are doing in Africa, empowering our young upcoming leaders and also political parties to learn the emerging trends in Africa, in the world. With that, the floor is open for anyone who'd like to ask a question or make a comment or just provide a compliment. Please feel free. I'll start with Abraham. Abraham Mukubu, I can see your hand is up. Please make your question brief or comment brief so that we give other participants an opportunity. Abraham Mukubu.
Thank you very much, John, for the opportunity, and also thanks to the participants. I think it has been a very fruitful engagement, looking at the role that each of the participants is playing to spearhead youth participation. My contribution basically is that I think to be able to move from policy to action, I think there's need for us to strengthen the institutional framework that provides deliberate platforms for youth engagement in decision making, and that for me I think will speak to either like legislative reforms that allows either local authorities to create youth engagement platforms where young people are able to engage with local community leaders, the councillors, and be able to raise issues and engage in meaningful debate so that we are able to hear the voice of the young people. Having worked in local authorities for 14 years, one thing that I noticed that is lacking, like in our country, Zambia, is a deliberate platform where citizens can engage with the local authorities. And that cuts across the different populations, but mainly, I would say young people have no platform where they can engage. And so because of that, they tend to shun away from decision making or being involved in issues that they have to do with development. So there's need, I think, to strengthen that aspect where we have a deliberate platform which promotes youth engagement. I think that will then start raising that awareness within young people, the need for them to be part and parcel of the leadership journey, and also the opportunities that leadership provides, especially at local government level, and then through that be able to be mentored to graduate to parliamentary and maybe even national level leadership. So thank you very much to each and everyone who presented. I think they were very insightful. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Abraham. Any other? I don't see another hand. There's a question Lucky was asked about how you narrowed down from several to just reading. There's a question that was asked for Lucky. How did you narrow down so that you had became the age of grade 8 to 17? Perhaps you could share that briefly.
Thank you, John. Part of our engagement is the definition of youth in context of African Union and the European Union. So we define youth until the age of 35. But in Europe, I think, if not mistaken, is between 29 and 30 years. So we had to work on a youth bracket that is accommodative to both Mogale City and Fanun Municipality in Sweden, who are in the partnership, so that we have a focused program that will deliver the same results and will have the same outcome. So it was not an issue to exclude any other age group. And I think it's clarified on the comment section. In Sweden is between 12 and 25 years, whilst in South Africa is 14 to 35 years. But the youth between those grades, grade 10, grade 11, are the same age, and we are able to partner and work within that particular age group. So it was for purpose of that particular program. But we do have other structures, as I've commented on the section, that accommodate other youths who are not in school going age. And these structures are called ward committees. In terms of ward committees, any young person between 18 to 35 can be elected to be part of a ward committee with 39 wards in Mogale City. And all those youth reps over and above representing their ward, they come together to formulate what we call a youth forum in Mogale City, and they boldly deal with issues of youth development. They come from different backgrounds: unemployed, employed, those who have postgraduate qualifications, those who could not complete their matric, and they cluster their issues together in order to resolve the challenges that confront youth in general. Thank you, John.
Thank you so much, Lucky. I hope the Deputy Governor is still around. There's one question, but with you, whether the policy framework that mentioned, whether it was done in an inclusive manner and whether you ensured you included all the marginalized women, persons with disability, etc. The Deputy Governor, I hope he's still, he's there.
Yes, the policy that I was discussing here, Murang'a Youth policy, was based on a very thorough, in fact, it took us almost 2 years to pass it through the county assemblies, through public participations. And so we included it into from all areas, from marginalizations to youth inclusiveness, so that we can be able to mainstream youth issues across all development avenues, whether it's in terms of infrastructure, whether it's in terms of health, whether it's in terms of agriculture, whether it's in terms of decision making, so that now any policy after that has to go through a thorough public participation process that is included in terms of youth engagement, that is included in terms of stakeholders engagement, that is also inclusive of the marginalized communities or groups within the county, so that we can be able to be inclusive as much as possible.
Okay, thank you so much. I think the last question I've seen here is to Annika. how responsive the African political parties are when you approach them in terms of youth inclusion.
Okay, that's a good question. So we work with roughly 60 political parties, and it's different, obviously. I think the toughest situation is for the government parties, where there's a lot of competition for positions. It's easier for the opposition parties, or for youth within the opposition parties. But we see a change through the years, because the Piper program has been running for 13 years now. So we see there's in some countries, like Kenya, for instance, that we experience that the political parties understand that it's in their interest to include youth. So we definitely see a change, but it's going slower in some countries and quicker in other countries. Obviously, if you sit on a position or a power, you might be tempted to protect your power, right? So there are challenges. I'm not going to hide that. What we've also seen, which is interesting, I think, is throughout the years, the way youth and seniors within the political parties talk to each other is more constructive, and that's part of our training also. So we're very happy about that. The communication and the dialogue is more constructive in general.
Thank you so much. I know why the deputy governor was laughing. It's a long story, and I'm sure you know how it works here in Kenya and my other neighbors here. As I can see, the time is almost moving. I'll put it back to Clara before the final comments. Clara, before we cross over to you again.
Thank you very much. And first of all, a huge thank you to all the panelists. It has been extremely inspiring. I have learned a lot. I'm happy to see that you also learn from each other. That's one of the purposes of these panel talks for all in the audience, but also for us as in the panel to learn from each other. We have tackled youth inclusion from many different angles today and heard examples of policies, of structures, of programs, of needs, challenges, success factors. And it stands out to me that we need to see the diversity of youth needs. It is not one group of youth, but also the connecting points between youth empowerment and other factors in society like employment, health, anything that goes on at household level. And that empowering youth in the political life takes potentially a favorable policy environment and building the wide-spanning structures and programs, but also that there are many things that individual leaders can achieve and can do if, as we have been shown today, if leaders are brave and they feel accountable to the people they serve. And I think we have seen wonderful evidence of that happening today, and it is clear that it will be felt by young people and by all people in your respective communities. I walk away feeling inspired, and I hope that goes for many of you today. Thank you all for listening, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Clara, for those closing comments. We've had a lot. We have learned a lot. I've actually learned a lot, including from my own county of Murang'a, which is not far from where I am. The issue of advancing youth inclusion in local governance. I think most of the participants, you take home a number of issues, whether it's talk about active involvement, whether it's about equity and respect, whether it's about removing barriers that have been mentioned by Chota in Murang'a and also with Annika, and also the issue of accessing environment, providing open and inclusive spaces for youth that you have heard from all the panelists. And also one of the key areas was about